can keep pace?
It's a good question. We'll be able to identify pretty quickly as we enter the mid-game in this game one. Of course, for now, though, we're headed into Champion Select, powered by Omen and HyperX. Bard already banned away. Check. One thing off the to-do list on how to beat T1. Of course, there's about 50 to 60 other steps in the process, but that's one.
Yeah, step 2 and 3 is what's happening with Orianna and Azir, because Trundle now going to be banned away, leaving both Ori and Azir here. So I personally, if I'm looking at T1, don't give across the Azir. I think that has been exceptional for Faker for an extremely long time, although Orianna has been the stronger performer at this tournament.
The problem is whenever you say the name Faker and you say exceptional performer for a long time, you just could start listing
a lot of champions.
A healthy portion of the entire League of Legends roster. We were watching the replays again. It was Cassante mid last year. It was Nautilus mid. It's gotten weird over the years, but this could be a more conventional mid lane matchup. They opted for the Orianna. Now, I think it is important to call out where there have been some struggles in inconsistency. JoJo has looked pretty solid, and Orianna remains that super high priority pick for a good reason. So see what they can do with this. Is an immediate Cassante picked up, not afraid to blind pick versus Mirwin, even with the luxury of red side counter pick.
Yeah, it's also been a champion Mirwin has, honestly, I think been one of his best champions, so not surprised to go away. The Azir is going to be picked up next. I do think, though, because you've still got options here for like the Wukong for Elyoya, which has also been a very strong pick from, the Orianna Wukong, a strong combo. I think MKOI still are going to be relatively happy with the way this draft is going so far. But again, for T1, I mean, it's what you want, your bread and butter. It's Faker on Azir, strong front line. You're going to be able to get something like a Varus or something along these lines for Guma in that bottom side of the map if you'd really like to. Even the Xayah, and you're going to be fairly happy with the way things are going.
That you are. Really taking their time. They are going to opt to lock in the Xin instead, so potentially indicating a more aggressive plan in the early game. Obviously, we've seen Wukong kind of, I would say, be the pick of the tournament. It had meta prio a lot in all the regional playoffs, but I feel like in this tournament especially, it's looked super dominant. Now paired alongside the Corki. So MKOI, a lot of early to mid-game power here across these last two picks.
And that's kind of what we were talking about, is that I think MKOI is saying, look, if we don't win early and win hard, we don't really have a chance here. So going for a very strong early game in the Xin Zhao, you don't have to wait for that level 6 on the Wukong. Try and find these early skirmishes with the strong power lane that you have in the Corki. But it was going to be answered by the Varus. We kind of expected this, just a very strong lane and something that Gumayushi is exceptionally strong on. So I think for MKOI, it's going to be all focused on this early stage.
Where, however, are the bans going to be focused? Obviously, a bit of a mismatch. MKOI can shape the jungle matchup, but support's going to be especially important here, as T1 will have the luxury of counterpick, and being in a position where carry gets a counterpick support is always a terrifying prospect. We might not be in, Caitlyn's support era, but it still haunts me at the very least.
Yeah, I'm also curious if we end up falling back to things like the Gwen in that top side, like especially when you have the Xin Zhao there, you got the MC Hammer comp that can't touch this with both of those, but we'll have to see if that is going to be the plan, because it does give you a very strong front line and something that is very good at synergizing with these engage tools from Alvaro, which has been his best style of champion. We'll have to see what the game plan is, because you haven't seen much Gwen at this tournament, so it may just be an Ornn ban instead for T1 to try and take away some of that tank v tank matchup in the top side.
What is that option going to be for now? Is the Rumble instead, so limiting that long range. Of course, you do have the Varus, who's that immobile carry, and the damage from an equalizer can just make Aguma's life pretty miserable, whether it's on hit or poke Varus, although poke, I think, is the assumption at this stage. One final ban here for MKOI. This is it can be really tough here for MKOI, right? Because a range support really changes the nature of this draft dramatically for the side of T1. Swaps are always an option, so Braum is going to be the takeaway here. Makes sense when you have a Xin who's diving in. Probably means we're going to see at least probably just 2 more melee champions from the side of MKOI.
I thought they'd actually save the counter pick for Keria, because that has kind of been where Keria has been strongest, is when he's able to get some of his more unique champions out and about. Now, obviously with the Bard banned and the Poppy gone, maybe just saying, hey, look, Alistar, strongest into Nautilus, into Rel. We're happy to just take that matchup in a basic sense and see what MKOI want to try and answer with.
Okay, MKOI. Playing with our hearts, perhaps. Engage. Which, again, if you are a stranger to Alvaro at all, this is one of his best picks.
Okay.
Like many engaged players. And it's actually going to be the Mordekaiser coming in on the top side. So not just Bwipo anymore. Anyone and everyone pulling out this pick and can disrupt a lot of what T1 want to do in these team fights. Clutch ult can make all the difference.
The Kiana would surprise me here. Yeah, there you go. I was going to say, I don't think you've got the setup, and the way that your team fights want to play are fairly easy front to back, but Owner maybe feeling himself here today.
Confidence. Qiyana going to be picked up here. Obviously, can be fantastic engage CC or follow-up CC, but isn't always going to have the same reliable teamfight impact that a Jarvan will bring to the table. This champion used to feel like the LPL special, but it has just been rising in priority.
Yeah, we've seen Owner play it once before. Didn't end up winning on it. But we'll have to see, is as you say, it's been more of an LPL pick than an LCK pick. And now, coming in against MKOI, if you can get this ball rolling, Qiyana is an exceptionally strong boss, but it's not exactly in a list of champions that I would expect to try and play for the early stages, right? Azir just wants to sit in the lane and scale up. Varus just looking to push waves consistently and kind of win out through that respect. Yep. So trying to find these moments to snowball this Qiyana may be a little bit tough.
Could be. But I think if you're a T1 fan, you're sitting there pretty comfortable. Because Faker, 139 wins, 61 losses on Azir. Most played champion by more than 80 games. So I think if there's anyone who, whatever happens in early game, could scale up and bring this home, that is the man that I'm looking at.
He does have a habit of it.
Yes. But that is, of course, the historical, the prestige, the pedigree of Faker. More recently, as the desk highlighted, Guma has been the guy to look at. We'll see. Poke Forest is one of those champions that, again, it all depends on if you can land the Qs. If you can get those early advantages, Guma has been able to connect them in just about every situation. See if he can do that once again. So get ready for the first game in the series. Again, the final team to move into the top 8 here at Worlds. Will it be MKOI? Will it be T1? T1 the favorites, but MKOI. They got a shot.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
In respect to the MKOI fans who have trekked here out to Beijing, I just heard one very guttural roar of Vamos Koi. Sometimes it can make all the difference.
And for MKOI, they're hoping they don't have to make that trek home after today. Opportunity here to try and take down T1, but Albro going to be spotted. Keria only has the head push, so significantly less worried about that. And no word placed yet, but Keria, there goes. Pop over the wall, just try and spot it the early clear.
Mirwin and Doran, of course, get eyes on each other. Small health advantage for Mirwin in that trade, but it means we're not going to be seeing any kind of creative swap. It does make some decent sense. And already, we got aggressive trading early, which I love to see. That said, lethal tempo usually outmatches if you extend the trade long enough. So what initially looked pretty positive for Jojo, Faker, good awareness of the keystone there just to keep that trade going, and is still keeping that tempo stacked at least for another second or so.
Yeah, both pots burned immediately by Jojo. So going to see if he can try and look for that early health trade, it looks like, as that pot ends up coming through. But either way, as you say, like, Harvey trading in this mid lane, that kind of favors, honestly, the Zinzao more, who may be able to make a bit of a pressure play here towards the mid lane earlier than outside the Qiyana. But I'm also looking at that TP in the bottom lane. Varus, Guma usually end up opting in towards an extra teleport for the squad. So I'll have to keep track of him, because at this point in the game, with Keria having that unsealed spellbook, that's potentially 4 TPs that T1 have to start moving around the map. And I think that's where we've seen MKOI struggle the most, is when they're trying to play on these 1-3-1 side lanes and getting caught out. If an extra teleport is there, can be a bit of a difficulty. Although, with the Orianna, less 1-3-1 for this style of comp.
Definitely. But getting caught out on side lanes, a common story for a lot of teams at this tournament, right? But that's pretty far away. Currently, still seeing some... Oh, okay. All right. Well, you know what I appreciate about this, even as an EU pundit, is that at least you get your oopsies out in the early game, you know? PvE oopsies instead of mid-lane gank oopsies, as we saw in the previous series.
It is a bit of a philosophical thing that I have, which is, you know, you get the bad karma out of the way at the start of the day. And then the rest of the day has to go well, because you use up all the bad stuff at the start. So that's basically what Ayoya, I feel like, is employing here. Just a little whoopsie.
Oh, it's intentional.
Get it out of the way, and then it all goes good from here.
Yeah. Okay, I feel you. We'll now go for an invade. We'll see how this one works out. Pretty difficult for him to threaten Owner, but can just go for a steal here. Goes over, never mind, he's waiting over the wall. Observer's highlighting it beautifully, Owner. Likely gonna have to flash here. Lockham's there, might not get the chance. Doesn't even try to get over the big wall. MKOI with first blood.
It's the good karma. Draco's coming back for Ayoya. Managing to pick up the first blood here off a really nice invade timer. Even the fact he moved Alvaro over was just perfect. Moving over, Owner ended up using that invisibility at the start, which meant he didn't have any left. And then Alvaro able to move in here to help out Elyoya. And this is what we're talking about. That jungle support synergy is so high for this team.
Yeah, 100%, and really well played by the team overall. So unfortunate for Owner. He has the grass blade, which means that once he sees in, he should be able to go invisible, reset with the Terra Shape, get the grass again, and just be out there, right? Be stealthy. But because he uses both charges, because he uses everything on that golem, he's got nothing left to survive. And that's the bot lane prio paying off. Of course, for now, T1 have an advantage of their own, and JoJo's pretty far up. Water Blade ready to go for Owner. JoJo can continue to step into Faker, but he just does not have any health. Phase Rush, he's going to get him out for an extra second, but Owner just finishes the kill off effortlessly. Is forced to use the flash, but a nice fire back.
JoJo took a while to spot Owner coming in towards that mid lane. Ended up sticking around that a little bit too long. T1 make the play, and that's exactly what you need. We were talking about Owner wanting to try and snowball, step behind, but now answers back with a kill and helps even up or at least control this lane state for Faker in the mid lane.
Yeah, credit to Faker playing so aggressive to get that health bar relatively low. You highlighted it earlier on. Of course, since you highlighted it, they had already TP'd back, they already did more, but clearly Faker and JoJo willing to fist fight for lane control here.
Also, the Dark Seal already picked up for Faker means that he does end up with a stack on that as well as trying to trade hyper aggressively here. So the more kills that can go towards that mid lane, the better for the T1 mid.
Area, decent bit of damage. Powered auto going to connect. Ospawn back, but Guma crucially hitting the arrow, proccing those blight stacks. He has already moved in and it looks like taking the Raptors. So a lot of little trades across the map. Of course, ultimately, it's still an overall gold lead to the side of T1. So what felt like a nice, promising early kill has been really well answered. As this entire wave, I mean, the Rakan can get the money, but that
doesn't feel as good.
That doesn't. It actually feels pretty terrible. It's pretty bad. If you cancel some resets here, might be okay.
It doesn't matter too much because that extra TP on Gumayushi, so it means that he should be able to still come back in as he likes into this bottom side of the map. It also meant that if they tried to go for any sort of swap there with Supa, would have been able to be matched as well as Doran.
Level 6, immediately going to go all in on Mirren. Mirren flashing away. Doran can flash follow, but after he doesn't connect on the all-out Pathmaker, just decides not to pursue any further.
Yeah, Mirren flashed over to hit level 6 as well, so ends up getting that ultimate available, which means he may be chasing Doran as that ultimate wears out, but Mirren having him burn his flash in these early stages, and the individual laning phases, small wins for T1.
Going in, immediate knockup, but it's not going to stop the pushback from the Emperor's Divide. JoJo Pune running, but Owner happy to grab another carry on the way as well. Instead, going to turn his attention to the wave. Elyoya finally here, but it's just too late. The lanes for MKOI getting picked off so quickly as Keria even now tries to deny little bits of farm.
Great timing there from T1. You can see MKOI were aware of the level 6 and the flashless Orianna being a problem, but instead of Alvaro being able to cover, T1 just send more members mid and end up with another kill now towards this Kiana.
And again, this is the first pick Orianna. This is the matchup that MKOI opted into, and this is JoJo, who I believe has been the most consistent player for this team up until this series, where he is being targeted and really taken out of the equation. Credit to Faker. This man is constantly using the E, the shifting sands to get in, keep that man low. And JoJo just had no room to play, while T1 already starting up that first Drake.
Yeah, they're going to be very happy to do so. Again, you have Doran burning that flash on the top side. You have Gumayushi and Keria winning out on bottom lane thanks to their aggression as well. And you can see that CS lead opening. And now huge wins in the mid-jungle. MKOI were hoping to fight early, but it just feels like it's already starting to slip through their fingers.
Definitely does. Faker comfortable in the mid lane. Gold leads everywhere except for Alvaro, who of course has the extra assist and picked up a couple extra minions after that last bot wave was pushed in. But getting cheeky here, getting aggressive. Owner does just take over to level 6, but has the mobility just to make it out. Oh yeah, looks like he will be able to take away the red buff, but Kuma is there to contest, has used the ulti. TP now on the way in. That's Keria looking to arrive to the party. Slow, steady retreat here as Elyoya gets lower and lower. Supa there to cover as well. I think they would have liked to force out the Crescent Guard from Elyoya. Debating if they can turn this back onto Guma. Guma quick flash to safety. MKOI nice patience, knowing they have the control ward there to cover them.
Also, denying Gumayushi from getting to the wave does end up moving across eventually, but meaning that they had to invest this time, invest the time in getting that play in the Tri-Brush and don't get access to the wave on top side. So at the moment, MKOI at least finding these little windows that they are trying to pressure on, and it does give them early access to Void Grubs. And I don't think you can really contest this as owner. May just try and sneak one with the smite.
Level 4 for Alvaro. Throws the Gleaming Quill, so has been spotted. Owner not concerned whatsoever, knowing that Elyoya is on the grubs. I think MKOI should just be happy getting 2. That is a smite from Elyoya. No real reason to fist fight here. You don't have control in the mid lane. JoJo going to move up because it's an even wave. Elyoya continuing to step up. It's only Keria level 5. When becomes lightning. Guma marked. Won't be charging in. Owner just wants to take this one. He has smite. Should be no way they can stop him, but Owner doesn't want to risk going down for it. So 3 grubs. Well played from MKOI.
I think Owner miscalculating on the smite and how much damage he could do. Couldn't quite get that button down and ends up popping out. So MKOI, nice little advantage for themselves and even denying Gumayusi this reset.
Pretty big as Guma doesn't have access to that teleport. Did a really good job early at building lane advantages without using it, but now in this position is just going to have to go for a bit of an honest reset. Instead, he's going to opt to stay and push one more wave even into the cannon.
Should be able to just push out the wave and then reset and match Supa back on towards his top side. He's not going to be too sad about any of it. But again, I think like a lot of back and forth here in the early stages. MKOI have been able to find some success in the early stages, but you can look down at the bottom of your screen and just see these small gold leads that are opening up for T1. And I think if they can continue to use this over towards things like the Dragon in 2.5 minutes and keep that pressure up, that's really where MKOI will start to struggle.
Yeah, and item completions are huge in League of Legends, right? So the goal really for Owner right now is the difference of having that Profane Hydra. Sunder Sky will be big for Elyoya, but doesn't have it yet. Now they're trying to make a play on Faker in the mid lane. He retreats back to the safety of the Control Ward, and Keria is here to cover. Level 6 before Alvaro, so no access to the quickness quite yet. Overall, gold has evened out. 3 grubs for the Drake, the biggest difference.
T1 also going to be able to move in onto this bottom side and set up a nice little bit of vision ahead of this Dragon. You can see both Owner and Keria moving in there, and Faker's fine here. Still has flash, still has the ability to dash away into this bottom side river. So nice job by him kind of solo contesting this area.
And Owner is very scary right now, Rob.
Yep.
Level 7, double buffs. Ready to get in there with the first strike. For now, luckily, he's focused on PvE, but I get a little nervous every time he pokes his head out in the mid lane. Guma only level 7 to Mirwan's level 9. As long as he doesn't get clipped by anything, it should be okay, but Mirwan's flash is going to be up shortly. Could be a problem. Keria now ready to respond, ready to support if need be.
It is still a little difficult to make things happen on this bottom side because you can pop the ult as Keria and get out of the Mordekaiser ult, but you still then kind of want that for if you're going to set up the tower dive.
Yeah.
So get a little fishy, especially even if Mirwan just goes for the ult onto Gumayusi instead. So I think happy enough to just back away off of that one and just cover Gumayusi on the push. But again, like Guma, this long-range Varus is incredibly difficult to deal with, and he's been exceptional on this pick for such a long period of time across his career. And one of the things that he's become known for, I mean, even when you look back at stealing Barons at Worlds,
yeah.
So not exactly like he's off of any sort of comfort for himself.
No, definitely not, right? Those early item spikes for the lethality Varus can be so cheap, as well as, speaking of, he has now finished the Sundered Sky. Can be a big tool for sustain, although generally Kiana can be one champion alongside a lethality Varus who can burst through that Xin if he's not able to get that ultimate down and really deny a lot of that effective sustain. As TP coming in on the bottom side, Mirwan locking up Gumayusi, immediately taking him into the death realm, but he just quickly walks back, uses the power of the ultimate, and the 1v1, the Q flash forward. Gumayusi may have overstayed as well. He's about to get taken out. Mirwan knows he has that one in the bag. Keria now running out to safety. Extra movement speed coming in. That's the power of the spellbook Ghost. T1 caught a bit of sleep at the wheel. Risky proposition for Guma. Might have been a bit of a caster curse, honestly.
Yeah.
Hyped him up just for him to get 1v1'd.
But he's not used to running TP, you know, so not exactly in the best of spots. Keria.
Now sprinting out. Flashing as well. Finally going to use the Unbreakable. This man is determined to live. Has a taxied off of Elyoya, but no one else is coming. They're going to use the Shockwave as well. Keria will eventually fall. Surely Keria will... Okay, Keria has fallen. All is okay. Sorry, the EU fan came out in me for a second there. I gotta put him down. Put him back in the box.
Look, I understand. You've been hurt before, but he is dead. The cow is in the ground, and it does mean Dragon will also go and follow. But you're giving that kill to Jojo Pion as well, helping to accelerate the Orianna. So overall, it's nice from MKOI, and a big punishment of Gumayushi's TP and the overextension to try and save him afterwards.
Definitely. And for a team with a lethality Varus and an Azir, you would have loved to be the person getting this second Drake when you've already gotten the first, to start stacking those Drakes to guarantee a fight where MKOI at some point are going to have to fight into you. Instead, unfortunately, a bit of a flub from the bot lane of T1. Mirwan looking to rinse and repeat here. Pullback does connect onto Guma. Do they want to keep the dive going? They don't even need to go that deep. Just obliterates him. Keria gonna get taken out. Well, they know he has no unbreakable will. MKOI grab another 2 in the mid lane.
Out of nowhere, MKOI starting to pick up a few of these kills, and it's off the back of the play earlier where the flash was burned on Keria and Mirwan just barely clipping Gumayusi after the flash with the claw.
And important to note there, observers highlighting well, a wave is the cost of that play, but perhaps that's why T1 felt comfortable, thought that MKOI were going to send someone up to catch the wave. skipped a step, did not anticipate MKOI making fast plays, but we've seen over the course of the year, one of the things that MKOI loves to do, they're willing to take those riskier angles, and now it's starting to feel less and less risky because the Swifties, Mordekaiser, it's scary. I'm just, that is a hard man to stop from getting into your back line as Faker tries to make the difference himself. Does get the flash out of Jojopyun. Jojopyun keeping the extension going. Shockwave going to force the flash back from Faker. Carry and Owner there to cover, but neither side going to grab a kill. Just a flash and ult trade on both sides.
The thing is, though, it does make Jojo way more vulnerable in an upcoming fight, especially at the Rift Herald in 50 seconds. Having no flash gives Owner that target on his back. So I'm curious how MKOI want to try and keep Jojo safe. Is it forego this Rift Herald and try and keep their mid laner safe in a side lane, or are they just going to try and attack Owner very quickly as he enters River to try and deny him access to the Orianna?
It's a good question. Doran and Mirwin continuing to trade blows on the top side, but it's Doran who's keeping the push up, so that will be a push advantage for the team. Supa can respond, can try to get mid control for himself, but lethality Varus, obviously one of the big strengths of the champion, even when Corki has his Trinity Force spike, is that he can just clear those minion waves so effortlessly. So another wave, losing a couple of creeps, another bit of gold chipped away from MKOI here, courtesy of Doran on the top side, but Jojopyun's been assigned, and our eyes are now on the next objective. 5 seconds. Jojopyun spots out Doran. Alvaro waiting off the side, but they really don't have the damage to kill Akana, Krooker, and Cassante. They will continue to tickle him, however.
He's going to be relatively fine for the moment. But I think with the way T1 have established themselves here, I don't think MKOI can really contest. There's a big wave that Jojo wants to get in top lane.
It's a risky bet. Top wave and mid wave essentially even. Mirwan going to push in on the bottom side, though. Try to deny some CS, try to get some plates. So MKOI recognize they're down a man. They don't want to commit the TP. Immediate exhaust on the carry. A 2-man knockup with the Pulverize. Good damage. Down force using Unbreakable Will, but he's so low. Supa pushes for a bit more, and it's the big one to get it done. Redemption coming in the mid lane. It's going to heal up the minion as well. Keep the push onto this tower going. And now Yo-Yo wants Guma. MKOI are bloodthirsty and fearless in the mid lane. Faker trying to respond with a push in the meantime, but it's MKOI with a massive lead.
These mid lane collapses are working for MKOI. They're getting the kills, they're getting some waves, but again, they're dropping one wave on top on that tower to Faker in the top side of the map. But overall, like mid tower for top tower, get the kills. They drop a wave in mid for T1 as well. MKOI are going to be happy with this.
In a good position. And again, the champions that they've drafted, the Xin, the Corki, you can see how they give them early control of the lanes, but they're not getting completely outscaled here. And Keria, it's been a bit of a rough one this game.
Yeah, and I think it's the fact that he didn't just use that ultimate early. Like, there is no objective that you really need that ultimate for. So just burn it, just say, okay, I'm going to be fine, I can escape away to the tower. But instead, he ends up going down, and then the Q3 being set up here by Elyoya to flash forward with the immediate lockup onto Gumayushi. The flashless Varus punished on the back end.
And again, the story for T1, even in some of these shakier games, has been Guma being the rock when Keria fell a little bit short, but now they're both struggling in the context of this game. Keep an eye on the item completion, see when they can get a greater advantage, but can't afford to be complacent. MKOI clearly playing without fear here in this game one.
Yeah, trying to put pressure now onto this bottom side, use the fact that you've already gotten a good chunk of damage onto that tower, but Keria has snuck in behind Jojo, and that flash is still not up for the Orianna.
Just shadowing, waiting above him. Do they want to push for the play here? Credit to MKOI. Might not know about Keria, but have enough people here on the bottom side to make sure that Jojopyun is not pushing out alone.
They have the vision in the top side jungle to spot out Owner, and he hasn't shown on any of the wards. So I think that's what MKOI have spotted, going, hang on, where is this Kiana? She has to be on the bottom side, but Jojo
finding out firsthand exactly where Keria is. Lockdown coming in. Q-Flash goes in forward for Dorn. Pushback coming through on the Pathmaker. Pulls him out of the Redemption. Knocks him down. Owner picks up the kill. Killing spree for the Kiana.
That was patience from Keria. So long he waited in that bush. Knew that eventually Jojo would walk up and face check. And that's the dragon now for T1.
So important for T1. So much time invested on the bottom side, and they are able to grab the pick. TP coming in from Faker. Want to make sure that they have all members present. Mirwin lingers a bit in the darkness, debates if there's an angle, thinks better of it as there's a bit of prio in the mid lane. Some minions denied and likely the tier 2 to fall. Supa making good use of that Trinity Force power spike. The Spellblade damage to the towers can't be underestimated.
The 3 Void Grub buff as well, doing a lot of work for them in that one. So MKOI getting at least something back. And maybe more as they want to try and push in on Doran. It denies him access to this top side of the map. More turrets for them.
1v1 on the bottom side. Mirwin starting to retreat. Owner debating if he can follow up. Obviously, Earthblade going to do a lot of damage when he gets the next reset on cooldowns. So Mirwin zoned away, but it's just a split map. MKOI getting a tower on the top side. T1 likely to finish off this tower in the bottom lane.
Yeah, and for T1, this is kind of what you want in a split map scenario, being able to match a lot of these plays and keep within touching distance in the goal. You do end up scaling exceptionally well with the Azir and this Varus as the game starts to go on, but I think for MKOI, the fact that so much of this gold is going into the hands of the Orianna, definitely they're going to be happy with as well. So it is going to be a case of how much can MKOI do now off of this 2-item spike that we're going to start to see come through, and see if they can just power through our T1.
And a huge opportunity for Supa to redeem himself, right, from the last performance that we saw. Has 2 items just waiting for that tier to fully stack. 103, 1K individual gold lead. We've seen from a lot of Corkis at this tournament what you can get done. We saw a bit of it in the mid lane when they took down Keria, but if they can keep that momentum going, make the most out of the early power of something like the Trinity Force, could put themselves in a very commanding position. But as EU casters, and if there's EU fans out there, you might be starting to sweat, and you might not remember why. But it's that little timer at the top of your screen that says 10 seconds counting down. That buff is called Otacon. And if you have ever watched an EU game ever in your life, you should be a little bit nervous about how this particular objective is going to unfold. We've seen great moments, but we've also seen a lot of throws. T1 staying composed, though. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
MKOI are looking like they want to try and hard force this, though. All 5 members on the bottom side of the map and no TP among them. So T1, as long as they can play this slow, keep the waves pushed, they're going to get value from Doran in that top side.
Alvaro has to be careful, though. Does have the barrier to keep himself healthy, but a bit of CC paired with the sheer amount of damage Owner can bring to the table can just take him out. They don't have control of that tri-brush, crucially. MKOI slowly trying to work their way in. They have mid lane control. They're trying to get control of the bottom lane. Alvaro going to take about 50% of his HP. Does have access to the redemption, but instead is just going to opt to reset. Herald used in the bottom lane as Owner finds Supa. Face first, pushes him back to the wall, immediately CC'd. Flash forward with the shockwave! Excellent teamwork, but Owner's still going to be able to find his way out. Now Guma's moving in. Ulti is going to connect, but it's Elyoyo who body blocks. Elyoyo with the crescent guard, but the snipe from Guma! Dead center right between the eyes to find the double as MKOI are now on the retreat, and T1 take the fight in the river.
The MKOI carries tried to combo, but it's T1 who were able to find the fight that they want with the positioning and the snipe from Guma. They managed to get the Otacon off the back of it.
Mirwin going to stop any charge from the Herald in the bottom lane, but the Herald for Otacon, a damn good deal for T1. Supa, powerful individually in terms of what he could do in a fight. What he did do in the end, nothing. Stunned, finds a bit of a lockup, isn't able to finish the kills, even if the shockwave combo looked good for a moment. And Guma, despite that deficit, Supa was 1,000 gold ahead at the start of this.
And that's the downside for MKOI fans. The fact that you couldn't quite pick off Owner despite the play here and the Valkyrie getting interrupted by this supreme display of talent means that when Doran jumps onto him here, he has 0 escapes left. Elyoyo jumps in front of the Chains of Corruption, but Guma knows exactly where he is. They finish him off. Elyoyo's gone too far forward. And ideally for MKOI, they play this slow. They keep T1 separated and they can actually make a play on that bot lane turret. But just with the way things went, MKOI get caught and T1 find their moment to fight back.
That thin line between confidence and hubris. Right, the sweeper giving Owner just that half a second more of information than he needed to make the aggressive play. And Supa, if that Valk gets him out, it's a very different situation. Because that CC connects, isn't able to use any of that power even now as he hits that 2-item threshold, the fully stacked tier. Giving him the upgrade, right as Guma's also going to get his, admittedly. But we take a look at the gold, it's Owner who just continues to pull ahead. Has opted for the Umbral Glaive. Going to deny more and more of this vision away from MKOI.
And it feels a little bit like that series yesterday from 100 Thieves where the picks and some of the kills were going in MKOI's favor, but when it came towards the objective setup and how to play the map, T1 just ever so slightly ahead. Now MKOI, they're seeing they brute force their way in through the mid lane. Faker is separated.
Hot charm is there. Lock up on Owner, but he goes invisible for a brief moment. Now he's pulled him to the death realm up against Mir when Ulti is really going to do nothing, but Owner's still able to retreat for now. Alvaro taken down. Owner coming over the wall, going to pop out in a brief moment. Wants to get the grass blade, doesn't have time. That's the shutdown, but it should be Supa uncontested. Instead it's Keria coming in with the pulverize, and now it's Elyoyo versus the world. He goes into the Faker, but there's too many people. There's not enough sky to sunder. There's nothing left to guard. Jojo wants to make the difference, but Guma grabs it. 3-man shockwave. He just doesn't have the damage yet. He doesn't have the items. Jojo keeps him low, but Doran wants to keep going. Q3 ready to pop. Pull through on the all-out. Looking for the Pathmaker to confirm. Tries to predict Jojo, and it just doesn't work. Doran looks like he's about to fall. Nice sidestep on Guma's Q, but Doran just barely able to walk away.
It's the Canadian mid laner trying his best, but it's
Faker!
Faker who's better and snipes him out.
I don't even know if that was necessary. that was the insult after the injury, Rob. No man left standing. Alvaro died at the start of the fight, respawn. Faker's still sticking around like he might kill him again.
And the fight here, everything onto Owner to try and deny him. But it's Faker who's now shifted up from the top side, picks off Alvaro to start this off. And you can see MKOI, they're very scattered on this. Supa and Oyoi are so worried about Owner as he comes out. Jojo has been completely isolated. Now Alvaro is in the same boat.
Alvaro caught, will just get taken out there. Important to highlight in the fight, Doran perfectly calculating the Pathmaker, the Cassante W, to catch Mirwin as the Death Realm faded, making sure that there was really nothing he could do. And I swear to you, if you are just joining us, that 5 minutes ago MKOI had a 1,000 gold lead. 5 minutes ago, they were just face-checking a brush at Otacon, and everything seemed fine and dandy, and now here we are, and I think this is what makes T1 and teams at the top level in League of Legends so terrifying, as it is one fight, 2 fights that can shift an entire game in the blink of an eye.
And it really does come down to like their ability to set up well around objectives in the team fights. Like looking at that Otacon, it was, okay, we can catch members of MKOI out where they shouldn't be. MKOI, Supa and Jojo try to make that play, it doesn't work. And now, I mean, Jojo, to give him his due, is trying everything he can with the fancy footwork, but there's just too many members of T1 standing whenever he gets that shockwave, and there's not enough damage with the build that he's gone at the moment.
Nope. And again, credit to T1, right? It didn't start great for Guma and Keria, but have transitioned nicely into this mid game. Guma connecting on all those piercing arrows. Keria with a taxi play to make sure the knockups are connecting.
To give them their due, Gumayushi did an exceptional job in lane of getting a lead with the punishment on towards to Supa, but it, as you say, as they started to move on into that early to mid game, that's really where Keria in particular started to get caught out. You started to see MKOI finding picks onto Gumayushi off the back of that. But now T1, this is where they're dangerous as a unit, stepping forward, choking out MKOI's vision. And Faker, Playmaker, hiding in the shadows.
2.5k, just about individual gold lead. Shadow Flame, the Verdant Barrier. 10 stacks, he hasn't even upgraded to the book yet, but honestly, he probably could. That is a terrifying Azir. MKOI, I think, in a weird way, happy that he's in the side lane and not right up in their face. Now they have to try and hold on to this tier 2. The wave being ushered in, a bit of poke onto Doran, but they don't really have that much damage. No pen for Supa quite yet.
And now, as Gumayushi, you're delighted with life. Because the fact that you get to sit underneath these towers and just take pop shots at everyone on MKOI is so nice with 3 items completed. MKOI trying to check the Baron, see exactly what's happening, but that river is very dark and full of dangers.
That it is, and again, the Umbral Glaive for Owner. They've already seen 1 blue trinket used. Looks like 2 more on the side of MKOI to try and spot out when the Baron is going down, but they don't really have someone on the side lane who can go toe-to-toe with Faker. Doran is a tough threat to deal with as well, so it's just so difficult for MKOI to fight on even terms now. They had their chance in previous fight, but T1 with this kind of advantage just starting to smother them out of this game.
Yeah, especially when you're going up against this Qiyana, it is very difficult to get control back in your own jungle. You step forward, you end up walking towards a wall, and suddenly a Supreme Display of Talent comes over and you're not having a good time.
I love that ability.
Yeah. It's so
It's a
long.
mouthful. Yes. You can say ultimate, I promise. I'm going to say, I'm not saying the name.
But sometimes if you yell it at the top of your voice, it really does work.
You're right. You look nice and staccato, gets the people fired up.
I don't think I had that in that sentence, though. Uh-oh.
Supa. Falk out. What is the talent, though?
Qiyana. Have you never listened to her voice lines? She is very pumped.
Yeah. Pumped up. Guma potentially caught out. Alvaro not able to hit the charm. Only connects on the Keria. Redemption going in. Q flash from Mirwin. Redemption response from T1. This is a bit of an awkward start. Mirwin losing a ton of health. Pulls Keria into the Death Realm. And now it's Doran into the backside. 4 members strong from MKOI. Slowly working through the health bars, but down goes Mirwin. Doran only losing about 60% HP. Bit of an awkward exchange of cooldowns, and T1 come out on top.
Yeah, MKOI trying to go back to if it ain't broke, don't fix it, which is just collapse on mid and hope for the best. But T1 have seen through their plan and managed to pick off Mirwin before any real damage is done. And now they're over towards the Baron. But again, face check, it is not fun.
No, it's not. Supa losing about 20% HP just for walking in. TP in for Doran, solo zoning Supa, gonna ult him back through the wall. It's gonna take all of MKOI to turn. Doran now trying to retreat back into the waiting arms of his team. In the meantime, the Baron has been taken out. Faker and Owner easily two-manning it. MKOI, brief moment where they have control of mid, but really nothing else for them to get.
The T1 going to be happy enough with that. Doran will give his life, but it's the Baron. And now that the Baron is taken, it's very difficult for you to try and deny the siege from T1.
And this is part of the reason why we see Azir prioritized so heavily, right? Is he is a control mage who does it all. Other than Cassio, he's like the only mid laner who obliterates that objective. Any other mid laner, and you're not two-manning that objective while pressuring somewhere else at the same time. But T1, no strangers to rapid early Barons. It was a signature move from all those years ago. And MKOI only getting further and further behind.
Yeah, for MKOI, I think you're hoping on a miracle shockwave. Jojo near Shadow Flame, but even then, oh, hang on, Alvaro.
Bro on the flank, nice backstep from Faker. Able to get a bit of CC down, shockwave going in, but it's really not doing the damage they need. That's the supreme display of talent. I said I'd say ultimate, but I didn't. I couldn't help myself. MKOI getting the objective bounty. In the meantime, looks like the tower did fall in the bottom lane, but they're just being zoned off, pushed away. May come down to the 50-50 steal if Elyoyo wants to poke his head in.
Nah, I think it's done for. This is what I was about to say, was the fact that you don't really have that damage on Jojo, and that Banshee's Veil on Faker just makes him so difficult to lock down, and he is the key target. So great itemization coming through from the T1 mid laner to keep himself safe and really deny the win condition from MKOI.
Yeah, and that MasterCard priceless moment was essentially just T1 denying MKOI any potential moment they had. And mounting the comeback is now Owner sprinting through the jungle. Alvaro goes over the wall, but there's just members of T1 around every corner ready to lock him down. Suba really does not do enough damage to Doran. He's able to zone him away. Hex flash over the wall. Alvaro locked up and interrupted. Owner trying to one-pop him, but Alvaro lives for an extra second. Nice shockwave, but really only connecting onto Keria. With that major cooldown down, it makes it so easy for Faker to step up, for Guma to step up. Big chunks coming through from the Varus Qs. The piercing arrows connecting. And T1, now that they have the Baron, now that they have access to the bottom lane, will they just go for the throat, or are they going to take their time? Doran unstoppable for a moment. The siege just continues from T1. No real way for MKOI to answer for now.
Yeah, the Gatling gun is a tickle for Doran. The shockwave is a cattle prod for Keria. There is no damage on MKOI's side, and T1 are just kicking down the front door. Reset's coming through now, and they want to keep up this pressure. TP back out onto the map on both top and bot, or top and mid, but is this something?
TP? Faker feels good because he has a death cap, and oh god, he wants to use it! Redemption going in! That looks completely insane, but my man, did he do the math?
That was a display of talent. That was some damage from Faker on that play. MKOI kicked to the curb after that.
The brief moment where they thought they might do something. Oh, Faker's just gonna kill everybody by himself. All right, we've learned that the best player of all time's most played champion might be worth taking away. We might have learned it before, other teams might have learned it before, but MKOI relearning this particular lesson.
Very happy that Fearless exists in this series if you're MKOI, because you do not want to go up against that again. As T1 will siege down the Nexus turrets. The waves aren't here, but the poke can be.
Yep. Guma just continues to free fire. One wave coming in on the top side, likely the end here. MKOI some good looks in that mid game, some good picks, some good angles on the T1's bottom line. As Alvaro gets things kicked off on the Faker. Nice initial bit of damage, but he comes out relatively unscathed. A lot of cooldowns missing. Redemption to get the health bars back up. Alvaro needs to backstep. Big damage. Doran going unstoppable for a moment. Q3 pulls him back through. Elyoyo in the midst of everything, but Doran getting lower. The tower not quite enough. Supreme delay. Talent coming in. Owner still standing for an extra second. I think they've overstayed a bit, but it just doesn't matter because they're not hitting Faker, and he's got more than enough damage to finish the job. The super minions are here too. It is long, it is drawn out, it is only getting more difficult, but Doran remains standing, T1 remains standing. They've only lost Keria. The Nexus exposed.
The defender's advantage is not really looking like an advantage.
Finally gonna end the game, Rob. They took their sweet time. They wanted a couple extra kills. The icing on top of this game one cake. Faker looking for another, the double to finish it. T1 coming in hot in this first game.
They didn't want to just beat MKOI there. They wanted to crush them. Finding those extra kills, making sure there was no man left standing.